that are supporting the choir, but the choir really is lay-led. And this is very important to us as the congregation, and it supports our vision for the congregation. The choir adds beauty to the music, and it adds beauty to the service, and it provides another dimension musically. However, for our congregants, when they see their own, in a sense, acting as shlichei tzibur, acting as leaders in the service, our hope is that it's empowering to them. It's a sound that is beautiful and heavenly, but not so heavenly that they can't sing along with the choir. And in fact, people do sing along with the choir and participate in that way in the services. And of course, there are times when they listen, and they only listen. And those moments are beautiful as well and have the spiritual value that we're looking for as well.
The shofar is a symbol. It's a ram's horn, generally. They take them from other animals too, but ram is the tradition. I believe this is a ram's horn. And they hollow it out. And each one is individual because the mouthpiece ends up being a different embouchure, you know, different size. And it's always difficult to blow with these things unless you find one that's just fits the corner of your mouth. In biblical times, when in war, it was to rally the troops to attack or tell them to come back. It's almost like the trumpet calls of the army that we know.
The shofar is an integral part of the high holidays. The shofar affects us on a visceral level. And the job of the shofar is to stir us. It's to physically move us. And this is one of the interesting functions of sound, is that sound and music, and the shofar, of course, goes right in along with that, affects us physically. It feels so old and ancient and primal. And I think it lets us go to that place that allows us to connect with our ancestors and with our tradition.
As you're sitting there and praying on the high holidays, you need a wake-up call. And what happens is, within the silent Amida, well, we stand and read this long litany of prayers silently to ourselves, to, really, we pause at the end of each of these three things called kingship of God, remembrance of God's covenant with Abraham, and the shofrot, which are the, actually it's the word for this, but it's basically the revelation of the Torah, revelation at Mount Sinai, the fire and the brimstone that's used so much by others, but it comes from the shofrot, who the people of Israel stood under the mountain with fire and lightning and sounds, and the sound of the shofar, it's in there. So we call it shofrot. And we take this little pause, and you hear this. From silence to that, it's a wake-up call. It's like, yo, don't take this for granted. This is real. This is not a practice. This isn't a rehearsal. Like life. Life isn't a rehearsal. It's the real thing.
When you have a child in the sanctuary and they hear the shofar for the first time, and they may not have any idea as to what's going on prayer-wise or liturgically, and they don't understand the weight of the holiday necessarily, but they do. They hear the shofar, and they are transported to a completely different place and a completely different time. And to me, when the shofar is blown, especially that final Tikiyah Gdolah at the end of Ne'ilah, it's this moment where I really feel completely transformed. To me, that is the seal that says, okay, the new year is starting, it's going to be okay. For me, Rosh Hashanah starts actually about 15 minutes before the service begins. And it's at a time when I'm in my office and the rest of the sanctuary is kind of tohu vabohu and people looking for seats, and there's excitement in the air and it's so alive and vibrant. And I just kind of sit there and I breathe. That is the time when I set my intention for what's to come.
In the very old days, a cantor would come in and say, "Hineni, here I am." And somebody, a planted guy in the congregation would say, "Who are you?" "Heoni bimas." "I am poor in deeds. I am poor in deeds." And they would ask it was a feed-in to the words of the actual prayer. And it's a very dramatic moment. And you have the choir up here, actually on this balcony, start with Hineni heoni bimas. And I walk in the back door quietly. And I go, Hineni, 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 here I am, Heoni mimas. And as soon as I walk in, I feel this is what you're going to do. This is what you do. This is who you are. Because it's a prayer that asks God for the strength and for forgiveness, that you are unworthy to represent this entire congregation in prayer. But Nebuch, most of them couldn't do what you do, so they've appointed you. So please, God, forgive my sins, forgive my baseness, forgive all the bad words I've said, forgive the things I've done, because I'm here to represent the congregation. Let me feel pure. Let me be pure in your eyes. That's Hineni. That's when I feel that feeling.
Thank you, Hazzan Mizrahi, Cantor Glikin, and all those who made this such a beautiful experience. Don't forget, you can access daily updates on the Jewish community in Israel at the Jewish United Fund website at www.juf.org. As always, we welcome your input. Send your comments to sanctuary@juf.org. Thanks for joining us today. We hope your high holidays are deeply meaningful, and may you be inscribed for a good year. We'll see you in November. Shalom.